Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the day. Thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And I'll start out this video as I do every other, thanking our awesome community for the love, for the prayers, for the contributions financially. So appreciative of that. Cannot say it enough, will not say it enough. So thank you so much. And so off we go. This is video 5 of the How and Why series. This kind of ends the how part, and next one will be about what God really clearly showed me, why we acquire disease. And that's not just cancer. That's all disease, dis-ease. And, what we can do about it, really. I'm reading my script, by the way. I spoke with the doctor at Santa Vive the other day and was given an awesome report regarding the effectiveness of the continuation of the therapies I received in October. After reviewing the current CT scans that I had here and comparing them to the ones I had at Santa Vive when I left, I have had a 50% reduction in the tumor on my liver, as well as a 50% reduction of the tumor size on the tumor in between my lungs. And Dr. Ortega attributes this to the continuation of effectiveness of the application of the T cell treatment, which is the killer cells they take out of me and then reproduce them. And then at the end of the week or at the end of the time, they infuse them back into me, and that helps my immune system continue to fight. And I also say thank you, God, for keeping your promise of continued healing, because even though the T-cell therapy is the vehicle in which is being used, God's hand is in all of this. So I give him all the glory. I'll be returning to Santa Vive on March 13th for an 8-day program, which will include many of the same protocols I received during the 3-week program, but will obviously be more condensed and intense. I may also be having a minor surgery on my elbow after seeing what an MRI reveals. For the past couple of months, I've had 2 separate incidents of infection in my left elbow, which may or not be attributed to cancer growth. So we're going to take a look at causation. I'll be doing only 1 round of chemo this time, and radiation will not be necessary, he said. Praise the Lord. Woo! As a result, the only extra cost at the moment, over and above the cost of the 8-day program, will be for the MRI and the surgery if it's necessary. I've made every effort to be a good steward of the monies contributed by this awesome community and have the cost of the 8-day program and travel in the bank and ready to pay. I will be continuing to ask for God's remarkable provision to help with cost of the MRI, potential surgery to follow, and I have no doubt that God will provide as he always promises and always does. I'm ready and excited to return to Santa Vive and receive the next level of healing. Please continue to pray for this step, and thank you for your dedication in walking this road with my family and I. You guys are the best. You really are. Now, more of the how and why story. So, I continued to research the Nazi regime in the SS. The more I researched, the more disappointed and depressed I became. However, at the time, I needed to continue and learn as much possible about propaganda and how people are manipulated using their own ignorance. And again, I don't use the word ignorance as an insult, but for what it is, a lack of knowledge. While continuing the research of the Nazi regime, I came across a name that had nothing to do with the Nazis, but certainly has an interesting story. The man's name is Yuri Bezmenov. Bezmenov was a Russian journalist who worked for Soviet state-sponsored Novosti press agency, and he was a former PGU KGB informant. He defected to Canada, bringing accusations of Soviet infiltration and active subversive measures against American society. He outlined a tactic called ideological subversion, in which a society is manipulated toward a certain goal. In this case, the goal towards creating a communist state in an otherwise free society. The steps outlined for ideological subversion are as follows. Stage 1. See if any of these resonate at all. Stage 1. Demoralization. Make the people believe there is something inherently wrong, inferior about their culture, religion, and civilization. Stage 2. Destabilization. Once a society is cut off from its roots, various tactics are used to keep it off balance. Stage 3. Crisis. Oh, scrolled up too far. Stage 3. Crisis. A crisis is created to create a disillusionment in the present form of government. Think in terms of saving, quote unquote, saving the democracy and social justice issues. Stage 4. Normalization. Once a society is cut off from its roots, a Marxist or communist way of living replaces the free society. Bezmenov was written off as a conspiracy theorist. Go figure. As a result of his derogatory stance against homosexuality and his poorly produced books. Since both of those arguments have no relevance to the issue of ideological subversion, and, even though I do not personally agree with his stance, I have the ability as a critical thinker to discount the claims he is a conspiracy theorist, and seriously consider his points. Once again, I could not understand why I was being led to this information, but I had a foreboding feeling that something nefarious was coming. And, once again, I could feel my frequency dropping and the disappointment in humanity growing. In January 2020, the WHO announced that a new coronavirus had emerged in the Wuhan region of China, and on March 11, 2020, pronounced the novel coronavirus a pandemic. Nobody was really paying attention to what was happening, so there was no real immediately public reaction. But I was paying attention. The Chinese government, along with the NIH and the CDC, said they had found the origination of the virus in a wet market in Wuhan. It seems suspicious to me that they could supposedly find the source so quickly. So I began to research the area around Wuhan. Turns out there is a high-level coronavirus research laboratory several miles down the road from the wet market. Just a coincidence? By mid-March, the social distancing and lockdown orders began. I attended a wedding at the same time and was speaking with a colleague who had been a healthcare practitioner for 30 years. When I told him I thought the social distancing order was a mistake, he looked at me like I was insane. Even with his knowledge of human physiology and how the immune system works to fight viruses through exposure, which eventually eliminates the virus's ability to replicate. If the virus has no susceptible subjects, it burns out. I was amazed, or rather dumbfounded, that this seasoned healthcare practitioner was not only buying into the fear narrative, but that he wasn't even willing to ask questions. I knew at that moment we, as a society, were in trouble. That night, I made this Facebook post. Hygiene, hand washing, and keeping those paws away from your face? Of course, absolutely always. As a matter of fact, it is a bit disturbing that adults need to be reminded, but that is a discussion for another time. Social distancing? Big mistake. Of course, if you're running a fever and snotting everywhere, stay home. Respect others and yourself. It is a bit disturbing that adults need to be reminded of this, but that also is a discussion for another time. Why is social distancing a big mistake? Our immune systems have to be exposed to challenges to strengthen. Every day, our fantastic mechanism, the body, fights off viruses and bacteria because it has been exposed before. The body can avoid sickness if we help it through hygiene. If we do get sick, we either get better or die, and eventually we'll die. But if we don't die, our magnificent mechanism now has a way to fight off a returning attack. Perhaps this virus is a precursor to something more insidious. And if our bodies aren't exposed now, what will happen when the mutated form returns? Yep, we might die. We're all going to die anyway of something. But maybe, just maybe, with a little more social exposure, we won't die from this. No matter what, mortality rates will exist. Someone will die from this virus. They already have. But if we avoid exposure with social distancing, more death may be in store for the mutated form of this virus or the millions of others that are floating around. Historically, large quantities of people died when foreigners brought viruses and bacteria into their midst. Indigenous peoples decimated by social distancing. Now, not all those indigenous people died. Some survived and were able to ward off the viruses and bacteria when other foreigners came. Why? Because they were socially exposed and their immune systems strengthened. Fear is worse than any virus or bacteria and will compromise your immune system exponentially. Chances are, when they start testing, loads of people will be carrying or infected by the virus. But since there is no treatment, what will we do? Freak out? Or recognize that our magnificent mechanism will be able to handle it? And I ended it by saying peace. The reaction, especially from many seasoned practitioners I worked with for years, was astounding to me. It was like I had already killed thousands of people by simply questioning the narrative. I was not only disappointed on an even deeper level, but felt the bottom drop out at a frequency level. Now, I want to be clear, and I'm not blaming anyone for my predicament. Rather, I'm explaining my reaction and owning my stuff so I can truly let it go and continue this healing process. In order to close out this part of the How and Why video series, I would like to mention 4 names for your research consideration. I did not want to go down the accusatory rabbit holes, so I wanted to provide 4 key names that provide many of the clues I would consider essential to understanding why I knew we were headed for a train wreck in society. Do with them what you will, but I can tell you that they provide many answers to narrative questions that made no sense to me before I began researching them. So here are the 4 names. Dr. Deborah Birx, appointed to the office of Vice President under the Trump administration to aid in the whole government response to COVID-19 as a coronavirus response coordinator. I will post a clip of her comment about how coronavirus deaths will be registered. Her comments are very revealing. Now, when I say I'll provide a clip of the comment, what I'm going to do is post these in the update section. The comment will be there, the name, and then the comments they made or whatever videos that I'm providing will be under that. The next name is Anthony Fauci, director of the NIAID for the past 40 years. All of his predecessors ended their tenures as a director in 9 years. NIAID supports 25 laboratories, 2 freestanding sections, and 2 independent programs that conduct peer-reviewed research, as well as several branches that focus on new research technologies and animal care. And when you're providing people with money, you also gain loyalty, whether you're correct or not. In 2010, after unsuccessfully trying to assemble funds to begin developing the mRNA vaccines during the Zika virus fiasco, Fauci unilaterally appropriated at least $1.9 billion in funds from cancer research, funding to continue his personal research project. Now, I've also read that that figure is as high as $9 billion that he appropriated. And I'm going to add a clip of him on C-SPAN talking about how naturally acquired immunity versus relative vaccine community, that natural acquired immunity is much more superior. The third name is Dr. Kary Mullis. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for his discovery of the polymerase chain reaction, the PCR test, as you know it. Worked closely with Anthony Fauci during the AIDS epidemic and did not have a favorable experience. I'm going to add a couple of his videos from YouTube. Super smart guy. Even though he seems a little bizarre, incredibly smart and responsible for the PCR test that they were using to get positive tests for COVID. Two of these people that I just mentioned are unelected bureaucrats who profited from the existence of COVID-19. I'll let you make that decision. This will be enough information to get you started if you're interested in learning more about how I began to crash on a frequency level. Another interesting clip about hospital billing and treatment methods I'll be adding to this update. Next video, I'll show you what God revealed to me about why we get cancer and many other diseases. So thanks again for following our story, and may you be blessed with an abundance of grace, peace, love, and joy. I love you all. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Peace.